Okay, so we've heard there about the poor, we've heard about the intergenerational, the letter from the future asking us to take care of the environment, and we've also heard Father Sean McDonough speak about the species and thinking beyond ourselves. So we've 10 minutes now to open up to discussion or to take questions or comments. So I'd really love if people would get involved in the discussion, if you want to put a point to any of the speakers or if you just want to make a point yourself, but please try to keep it tight. Okay, so I think somebody had their hand up. Yes, there's a lady here and there's a gentleman up at the top up there, so we just take those two first. Thank you. Okay, so if you'd like to go ahead.
Hello.
Hi there.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I'm here as a grandparent and I'm only just voicing my opinion. I don't need an answer, okay? I am listening to it all, but what I do, okay? I am vegetarian. And I do believe that the emissions in Ireland from agriculture is 30% emissions. I could be wrong in a lot of these things. That's one thing. The second thing is I don't use Parazone, bleach, toilet cleaner, all of those things. I use vinegar and bread soda. I'm going back to where I was. The third thing is, this might sound strange, I remember reading somewhere where the oil in your hair washes your hair. You don't need to wash, you don't need all those things. I haven't washed my hair in 3 years. I'm no big movie star, okay? Another thing is, I notice I go to the swimming pool. This is only comment and I'll finish now.
Great.
When we're getting in, we have a little shower. When we're getting out, the children are screaming. They're getting their hair scrubbed, their bodies washed. I wonder how dirty they were getting in. Okay?
Good point. Thank you. Okay, there's a gentleman up here. We'll just move quickly on.
Ronan Tynan. First of all, Madam Chairperson, I must congratulate the panel on some very insightful contributions, but I must identify totally with the previous speaker because there's just one point I wanted to put to the panel, because I think sometimes when we talk about changing our lifestyles, it becomes a very academic subject and almost something that we almost present to ourselves as an impossible task. And the lady who asked that first, or made that first point, talked about the greenhouse gases emissions that the animal agriculture produces, meat and dairy, which is 14.5% of greenhouse gases globally. And we in Ireland are unfortunately quite notorious because we're actually trying to bump up this production of greenhouse gases through a massive expansion of the dairy sector in particular. I just want to put it to the panel. If we're serious about addressing the challenges of greenhouse gas emissions, do we have to address our diets? Or do we have a responsibility to adopt a plant-based diet? I myself, I have to be honest, I have, without huge difficulty, been transforming my own diet for that reason. I would say to everybody, it's certainly worth trying. But given the massive increase in meat and dairy production required to feed the developing world, who incidentally, in recent surveys, indicated they're very disposed to the argument of switching to plant-based diets, I put it to the panel, do we not have a responsibility to adopt a plant-based diet and move away from meat and dairy, except in those parts of developing world where, of course, they don't have that option? Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
Is there anybody else? So this gentleman here, if you could, I'll just let the panel cogitate on that for a minute and we'll take another question or comment here. Yeah.
Hello, thanks. My name's Austin Kennan. I work for Concern Worldwide. And, in common with the speakers and other agencies working, we're seeing the effects of climate change. Recently, the Ebola crisis in West Africa, one view of that is that actually the destruction of natural resources has actually led people to be in closer contact to viruses like Ebola, which made easier transfer. But I suppose my question is, I'm just trying to, and I suppose it goes into the next session and even relates, we have these conferences, we have the climate change conference coming up in December, and I'd just be interested in people's views, maybe the panel or others, as to what hope is there really from that? I mean, are we seeing any signs of that something might be achieved from that? Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So, Maybe I'll go, okay, so actually, yes. So now we have the issue of lifestyle change and practice in terms of what we eat and how we live, the question of the impact of conferences like this and how we actually make things happen. And this lady over here, yeah, so and then we'll go back to the panel to respond. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Rachel Michaeliker. I'm from Trocaire's humanitarian unit. I'd just like to reinforce the point around the impact of climate change on displacement, which leads to conflict, displacement being caused by conflict and so on. And just to highlight that this week the European Council will discuss migration and looking at European responses to the numbers of migrants coming into Europe. So I think this conference is an excellent opportunity to bring us right back to looking at what causes people to move in the first place, looking at the moral imperative of Europe to act, and question ourselves that when 80,000 people cross the sea into Europe in the first 6 months of 2015, excuse me, what then do we expect from our own government in terms of really making substantial changes and substantial commitments to addressing the broad impacts of climate change? Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm just going to come back to the panel and see if anyone would, I'm not going to go up and down the panel, but would one of you you'd like to speak, Shawnee? I did slightly cut you off earlier. So.
Well, just the one on meat and dairy products. I mean, they're not a very efficient way of providing food. Like when I went to the Philippines first, worked among the Tiboli, there was very little meat. You mainly ate rice or vegetables or root crops. The issue at the moment is, of course, as Western lifestyles move across India and China, the level of meat and dairy products going to be used will increase dramatically. And as I say, it's a very poor way of feeding planet Earth. I saw a statistic maybe about 10 years ago said that on a European diet, you could actually feed 1 billion people. And there's 6 billion other world. Like if everyone on the planet, but if it was much more diverse diet, you could possibly feed the 9 billion we're talking about by 2050. So now I think there it becomes an ethical reality and a religious reality. Will people of a particular religious tradition, will they sit down and say, hey, using too much meat and dairy products is something that's wrong at this time because of what it's doing to our planet and other peoples on the planet? And then come on and discern, we should actually cut back seriously on this as part of our ethical and religious lives.
I think there could be a question of the gifts of nature, natural things. I think somebody mentioned using natural things more than artificial things. I think the natural things are more technologies integrated and they become simplified that way and become natural, and we think that they're simple only. Our artificial things are more resourceful perhaps, but our things lack the integration part, therefore they are not really first class, and the natural things are more first class than ours. Only sometimes we have to correct certain things in the things that we have in nature, and we must use our technologies, our efforts to correct those, make better natural things.
Okay,